Now, persuasion gets a bit of a bad rap. People always seem to assume that persuasion is about getting people to do something that they don't want to do, or buy something that they don't really need to buy. But actually, if you're smart, you can use persuasion to get people to do what they really do want deep down. But maybe there's something in their way. Maybe there's something holding them back, and these people are struggling to get out of their comfort zone. If you could use persuasion to make people step up and be the best that they can be, wouldn't you want to learn persuasion skills? Welcome to the Expert Speak English podcast. This is the podcast where we're finding out how to be more dynamic, more authentic, and more persuasive communicators in English. My name's Corinne Wilhelm, and I'm based in Berlin, working outdoors and online with experts that might not have been discovered as the expert yet, or certainly aren't getting the opportunities and recognition that they feel that they really deserve. So, persuasion. I've always been interested in how people can be very, very persuasive in the most quirky and unusual ways. And when I was growing up, we used to have a golden retriever, and we lived in the UK at the time, and Meg wasn't allowed to go upstairs. So if she could hear us talking upstairs, you'd hear this kind of, this would be her tail wagging. And as we talked more and more, and it got more animated as we woke up, it would get faster and faster and faster until you can't really lay in bed any longer, because that's so persuasive, right? You can't resist. And Meg wanted to go out for a walk. She wanted some company. So sometimes you don't have to say anything. But in that situation, the dog obviously can't say anything, so they have to resort to other actions to get your attention. And that's really all it is. Getting your attention in a way that is authentic, unconditional, and real. I remember as a little girl, I was quite a cute little thing back then. And, I had my freckles and my curly hair, and I was quite cheeky, and I'd be able to persuade people to do all kinds of things. It feels quite nice, doesn't it, if you can persuade somebody to do something for you. And as a little girl, you don't want much, do you? You just want an ice cream or something like that. But it's kind of a bit of a game, to see if you can persuade somebody to do something. And it could be something as simple as getting somebody to give you a lift somewhere. If you ask them, could you do me a favour? You've got a much better chance of getting them to do that favour, according to quite a few different pieces of research, if you actually tell people why you want them to do that thing. So just by telling them why, it doesn't have to be an amazing reason, like, wow. It just has to be an explanation. Like, somehow, when people get an explanation, they're like, oh, okay. And it could be something as simple as, standing in line at the supermarket and you're like, oh dear, my parking is going to run out really soon. I'm going to get a ticket. If you go with that explanation, you're much more likely to say, oh, come on, go in front of me. You've only got two or three things. And you see, we as human beings, we're normally more than happy to help somebody else in that situation too, right? So by giving somebody a reason for doing something, you're in a much better position to be persuasive. And coming back to the little girl, quite often as young things, we're asking lots of questions, aren't we? But why do we do that? Yeah, but why don't you do it this way? And what happens then? And all of these questions, they can be a bit irritating after a while, I know, but they're also quite intriguing, aren't they? To see how somebody's thinking. And somebody asking you questions, they're putting you in a position of knowledge. you think, oh, this is quite nice. She's asking me all these questions. She obviously thinks I know everything. And, I'm the kind of person, people ask me all kinds of questions. It's quite bizarre. I get asked the most amazing things. But, it's incredible. If you think about it, you often do know the answer, or you can certainly find the answer, or you can find somebody who would know the answer. And so I quite like answering people's questions, as bizarre as they sometimes might be. Because if people are curious, that to me is a very intriguing factor. I love people that are curious. I love people that are looking for a better way of doing something, or looking for a different way of, expressing themselves. So if people are curious, you are naturally drawn to them. And if you like somebody, you're much more likely to do something for them. Especially somebody gives you something first. Like if a little girl came up to you and she gave you a flower, well, the chances are pretty high that when she says, oh, should we go for an ice cream? That you go, oh, go on then. And it's the same in business. We give our clients, we give them some kind of freebie, right? We need to give them an opportunity to see, how we tick, how we work, how professional we are, how creative we are, whatever it is that you think that they might need from you. So, you give them an opportunity to test you out. So in end effect, you're actually giving first, giving them something first. And then the chances are that because they've seen something decent, they'll come back and see what else you have to offer. They're kind of sniffing it out like the dogs do, and, it's just a way of getting to know you a little bit. Now, in the world of persuasion, according to Robert B. Cialdini, at least, 6 key factors that come up. There's a great book. If you want to read this book, it's fantastic. It's called Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion. It's brilliant. I'll put the details in the show notes, of course. But he names 6 fundamental principles. These are reciprocation, scarcity, consistency, social proof, liking you, and authority. Now, I'm not going to go through all of those in this episode because I like to keep these episodes fairly short, but I am going to look at 3 of these points. In terms of reciprocation then, like I just mentioned, if somebody gives you something, you're more likely to want to give them something back. And I'm the kind of person, I get a real kick out of, how sometimes you go into a shop and you see something, it might not be expensive, but it's something and you just see it and you think, oh, Nera would love that. Or Anastasia would love that. Or Susanna would love that. Or somebody, one of your clients, it would just be perfect for them. Or a friend of yours, or your dad, or whatever. I don't know about you. Buying presents for men is so hard, right? So when you see something for a guy, you have to pounce on it, right? Because by the time it comes to their birthday, you will have forgotten, or I will have forgotten, all about this thing. So you have to buy it like now. So when I'm out and about in the shops, I've always got this kind of radar, up for things that people might like. And I really quite enjoy packaging it up nicely, putting it in a nice box, because in Germany it has to be in a box. Can't send it in any other shape. So you have to start collecting boxes if you move to Germany. So then you have to go to the post office. This is definitely a down part of this whole thing. But sending something like this is really, I get a real kick out of it. But I don't do it to get something back. But inadvertently, I can talk them into doing things more afterwards. I'm not talking them into buying something because they've already bought from me at that point. But I'll have a better chance of persuading them to try something new, or I'll have a better chance of persuading them to actually write that thought leadership piece that we said we were going to write and they keep putting off, or I'll have a better chance of pulling them in somehow. So, being persuasive isn't always a negative thing. Sometimes being persuasive can be encouraging that person, like you would do with a friend, to, join the gym or join you for a drink because they really need a break, or, take a few days off with your hubby, or whatever it is, because sometimes it can be a great thing. So reciprocation is the first thing. And, that's why we get free samples when we go into, a supermarket sometimes. Here in Germany, it's a common thing. You go to the counter and they'll give the young kids like a little bit of salami or something on an incredibly sharp fork. But anyway, they give you a little piece of salami. And, most kids, they're kind of getting a bit bored by the meat counter, aren't they? So, they take the salami and you're like, oh, thank you. I've got a bit of peace now. And then you end up buying probably a bit more than you would do. You'll take, that looks good. Or I'll take some of that. Oh, that looks quite good too. Oh, yes. And then before you know it, you've bought like 6 pieces of cheese. I mean, come on. Who's going to eat like 6 chunks of cheese in 1 week? But that's the way it works. So the next thing is scarcity. Now, this is something, I come from a marketing background. We know all about this. If there's only one thing left or there's only a few days left, then we have this fear of missing out, don't we? Or FOMO feeling. We don't want to miss out. You go to a shop, you see one really lovely thing and it's in your size. And you're like clutching it. Your knuckles are white because you're desperate for somebody not to come and snatch it from under your nose. That's why we walk around with like 15 coat hangers under our arms. That's not a comfortable way to shop, but it could be that somebody else is your size, following you. So scarcity is a real thing. And, at the beginning when you launch a program, then obviously it might well be limited in the amount of places that you have. But if there's only 12 places, then you definitely have to tell people that there are only 12 places, because that will inspire them to, make that decision, to sign up, whatever it is that you want them to do. So scarcity is a real thing. That's why we get emails saying, last chance, last day to register, closing at midnight, this kind of thing. That's why they use it, and they wouldn't be using it if it wasn't effective. So scarcity is definitely something that you can use to be more persuasive. So to summarize then, so far we've had reciprocity, scarcity, and now I'd like to share with you some thoughts about likability. And being likable, this is something we talked about in a previous episode not so long ago. It's episode 120. It's called Likability, Being a Great Person to Work With. 120. I'll put a link in the show notes. Is definitely going to move the needle in terms of people buying into your story, doing what you want them to do. So how do you become likable? You listen. Because it shows that you're interested. And it shouldn't be that kind of shallow listening, that pretending to listen thing. It should be listening to really understand that person. How do they tick? What inspires them? What are they dealing with? What can you help them with? And that's the real deep listening that I get my clients to practice, because this is one element of communication that people neglect time and time again. So what do I have to do to listen then? That's right. I have to shut up. Shut up and listen. Be quiet. Just listen. No agenda, no planning, no putting yourself first. Put them first. They deserve your attention. What are they saying? What are they telling you? Because that is the key of persuasion. Knowing what are their fears, what are their dreams, what do they want to achieve. If you know that, being persuasive is easy. Because society really revokes these takers, free riders. These people that always take and never give anything back. That is really frowned upon, not just in our culture, in practically every culture in the world. And why is that? That's because evolution happened based on give and take. I can do this, you can do that. I can make this, you can make that. That is how we have been socialized. As children, we are socialized. Darling, if you're going to have a birthday party, make sure you invite everybody whose party you have been to, okay? That's common etiquette. That is the way that we are raised. If we're invited to a dinner party, in England we like this, to have dinner parties, then it's important that you invite people back to your dinner party. Not necessarily the very next one, but you have to make sure that there's a bit of tit and tat, a bit of give and take. It's this give and take that has enabled us to grow. If you are being onboarded, somebody is investing a lot of time in helping you, answering your questions, showing you things. So, of course, you can reciprocate not by showing them anything necessarily, not yet, but you might be able to reciprocate by offering to take the holiday day that nobody wants. Or, maybe you can reciprocate by, obviously doing what they're showing you to do, making notes, showing them that you're listening, showing them that you're learning, being reliable, being dependable, offering to take over things that person can't do. Anything that you can do to express your gratitude is really appreciated. So if you want to be persuasive, start with the small stuff. Start with, trying to encourage your hubby to sit at this table instead of this one. Start by persuading your kids to tidy their room. Hey, that's a bigger challenge. But do it by putting on some music. Get up in the room with them and be persuasive. Get them to do things for you. It's a kick if you can get somebody to do something for you. And it doesn't have to be a big thing. I'm not asking you to get somebody to buy you a car. But hey, if you learn the skill, go for it, honey. So persuasion is a great skill. And for the Coco Communication Challenge junkies listening, I know who you are. Then this week's communication challenge is get out there and see what you can do this week. Make a list of things you want out of life. Make it a challenge to try and get each person that you really like to do something for you. Make it a challenge. Write the challenge and do share your success story. Use the hashtag Experts Speak English and share that with me. I love to see what you're up to with these Coco's communication challenges. And there is one principle that I'd like to share. If I said to you, okay, to work with me, it's going to cost you 12,000 euros for the year. You might think, whoa, Corinne, that is just crazy. I don't have that kind of money. Okay, so then I'd say, okay, well, you've got this thing coming up, this keynote speech. Why don't we, just meet for a couple of hours? You tell me about the project in detail, and then we'll walk for an hour and a half, say, and you can practice with me, and I'll give you some feedback, and I'll get you to think about your tone of voice and your pace and all of this kind of thing so that you're really persuasive. And then I'll treat you to a cocktail. Well, that's a bit more appealing, isn't it? So, sometimes you have to start with something a bit more easy, a bit more doable, something that's not a complete shock to the system. Or I might say to them, well, we can either do that, or, that's my Pimp My English program, in case that sounds interesting. Or if you've got this keynote and it's next week, and you're going to be in front of your peers or your industry peers, and you want to make a really good impression, then instead of going for the cocktail, we could go for Perfect Your English. And that starts with a coffee, and you tell me all about it. Then we'll walk and talk, and then we'll have lunch. And then a couple of days later, we'll meet online. And during this whole time, you have contact with me via WhatsApp or Signal, whichever you prefer. And we'll make sure that you go in there feeling absolutely fabulous and assured that this is absolutely perfect. It's about confidence and excellence. So that would be another option. Okay, so now we're not talking about 179 euros. We're talking about 490 euros, okay? And we're not talking about 12,000 euros anymore. Yeah? So I can be persuasive by telling them about the big deal and then going back to something a bit more doable. And you can do that too. You can say something like, oh, can you read my thesis? And they go, whoa, I don't think I have time for that, honey. And then you say, oh, could you maybe just read the introduction and the conclusion? Yeah, that's doable, yeah. And then, of course, they might think, you might as well send me the other bit. Especially if it's interesting, right? It's always interesting to read theses. Okay, so that's the end of the show. Have fun, get out there, be persuasive, because this is your life and you get out of it what you put in. If you persuade people to do things for you, even little things, get used to persuading people, because it's actually a lot of fun. You just watch the Indians when they go to a flea market. They're in their element because they have practiced this. And it's cool, isn't it, if you get a bargain? So get out there, try it out. And if you're lost for things to do, go to a flea market, get your kids to do something, get your partner to do something for you, and have some fun with it. It's Corinne Wilhelm from the Experts Speak English podcast. You will find more details all about this topic on my website. Just go to English Speaking Experts /podcast and you will see a link to this week's episode. It will be ESE 128. So that's it for today. Have a great one and be the very best communicator that you can be. It's Corinne Wilhelm. Take care.